أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون. Their example is that of one who kindled a fire, but when it is illuminated that was around him, Allah took away their light and left them in darkness. They could not see. Deaf, dumb and blind, they will not return. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 17 and 18. In the previous few ayats, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us of the munafiqun and some of their traits. And before that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the situation of kuffar and some of their traits. And at the start, He was talking about the pious people. And here Allah gives us two examples. This are two ayats that we read and the next two. And here there are two ayats, two different examples. One of the example is a bit brief, but the other one, which we didn't read the ayats, is a bit long. And the ulama, they differ whether both these examples apply to the munafiqun, or the first one is for kuffar and the second one is for munafiqun, and so on. So they have their own fight going on. However, to make it easy, and I think it's a better opinion, that both these example applies to both. However, in the first example, these are munafiqun or kuffar basically. They are those people who do not listen, who do not accept, they do not have iman, but on top of that, they stop other people from it. So this is one. The second example, which is coming later on, they are munafiqun again. However, they show their affiliation with Islam and Quran and so on, and they do not stop people in open, and they have iman for a purpose, which is this dunya. So they can have war booty, they can have relationship with the Muslims and so on. And nowadays you can understand in different fashion where people can have business relationship, people can get married and so on. So for these purposes, they want to be around the Muslim or name themselves as Muslims. But in reality, they don't have iman. So there are two different types of kuffar, two different types of criminals. But one is outright and stopping people, the other one is hidden and they have their own dunya agendas. So these are two examples. Now, and here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us example. But before we talk about what this example is, let's understand how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks. You see, there are speakers and there are teachers. A speaker is the person who would communicate whatever thoughts that they have, whatever they are here to communicate. This is their only agenda. However, a teacher, when he is teaching, their only agenda is not to communicate whatever they have, but rather they look at the situation of the students, how they are, how they're going to take it on. So the teacher will come down to their level in order for them to understand. They will give examples that they can understand. They will test. They will give them a story and so on. They will tell them about the students who passed and how they passed, what were their habits. They will tell them about the student who failed and how they failed, what were their habits. They will tell them about various different things for the students to understand and observe. And from that is example. And we can all relate to this in schools when there were big, huge equations and they tell us this thing happens, this, till they give us an example, it makes it easy. So like in maths, it talks about long theories, but when they give an example, you understand it better. So similarly, there are many things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned so far, and I think we spend many days talking about what these munafiqun are. Now in here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sums it up in a few ayahs, in a few words, so everyone can understand and everyone can relate to. So this is basically what's happening. Now coming to the ayah directly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مثلهم, their example. Whose example? The example which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the previous ayah, those people who have bought اشتروا الضلالة, those people who have bought misguidance, those people who have bought error for guidance بالهدى. And they were those people who were not committed to guidance. They were never committed to guidance. They are those people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives example of those very people. Who are they? We can understand this in our own, because you see Quran, and Quran gives example. It's not talking about the past and what has happened in the history and so on. This Quran is like a mirror. We will look at it and we'll see ourselves in it. If we see any faults that were in those people and Allah gave a rad on them, Allah gave refutation on them, Allah got angry at them, zajr and so on, we will take those things out from ourselves. So this is not their example basically, it is our example and we can understand it in that fashion. So what is their example? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي اسْتَوْقَدَ نَارًا, is that of one who kindled a fire. The ulama say, you see this one word that has come in the middle, كَمَثَل. If this word was entirely removed, it will still make sense linguistically. If you were saying مثلهم الذي استوقد نارا, example of the one who kindled a fire, to need its meaning, it will still make sense. But why is this here? The ulama say that this to show this is like one of their example. Do not think that you have read these few ayats and you have understood everything about these people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. These munafiqun, these criminals, they are so twisted. You have to go further. You need to be able to dive more deep into the Quran, and you will be able to understand other sides of these criminals. And when you go to Surah Tawbah, you will understand how amazing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks. There are like 70 different things the munafiqun have been exposed left and right. So this is not just with this example you will be able to understand everything. No, there are others that's coming. This is one side of it. Like this is like little taste of what these munafiqun are. What is the example? So this in here is مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا. The example is that of one who kindled a fire. So this is basically talking about Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they say istawqad nara. So he did everything with the effort. Or the example is given of someone who is in a desert or someone who is in a forest, completely isolated from all sorts of civilization. There is nothing happening, and he is alone. And what he needs to do, he needs to be able to find firewood. He needs to put all sorts of effort, maybe a school, hostile environment, and so on. What he needs to, and he needs this fire for his survival. So this is what this person does. And this example is given of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because at the time where he came in, it was all hostile environment. It was full darkness. There was nothing going on. The revelation had stopped for a long time. Isa alayhi salam all the way to Rasul, there was long gap. So there's so much darkness that's happening. So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, and he was the one who kindled this fire. Then further, فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ. But when it illuminated what was around him. So this person, he illuminated the fire. And it's not just little fire. It was beautiful. It was big. Huge fire had taken place. So it was gone bigger and brighter. So same thing happened with the Quran. This Quran changed the civilization. This Quran changed those people who were nobodies. And it changed the world around. So this is what the Quran did. From where there was no justice. The baby girls were put in the pit, alive. The orphans were kicked left and right. The rights were taken away of the weak. Racism. Women were treated like bin bags and so on. So this was the situation. From that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed everything through this very Quran. So this is فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ. Then what happens after that? ذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ وَتَرَكَهُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Allah took away their light and left them in darkness, so they could not see. You see, previously it was talking about one person, and now it changed to plural. So what is it talking about? This one person lit the fire, but the reality is that many people needed it. So this was, many people should have taken it on. And another thing is that saying by their light, it shows that how much people were left in darkness when Quran was taken away from them, when Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken away from them. Is, you see, when there is a light, you will be able to still take some sort of benefit when you have your eyesight. When you have some sort of light left, like they will have effect of it. So by saying their light was taken away, meaning they were totally left in darkness, there was nothing left whatsoever. And on top of that, by saying their light, specifying it to them, it shows that this light was meant for them, but they do not take benefit from it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens with this example is that Allah sends His Prophet, Allah sends Quran. And by this, the true color of the people comes out. When the ahkam, when the rules of Quran are presented to these people, what do they do with it? They stood against it and they left Quran for it. So now same thing applies to us. How is this example applicable? We have already said many things with it, but the last part, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes this light from us and leaves us in the darkness, is because of our being nashukri, and those people who does not give the due respect. We did not give, we were ungrateful, we are ungrateful, and we are those people who do not give it true honor. It does not give true respect to it. What is the shukr? What is the thanks of Quran? Allah sent it for a purpose, is that we live the Quran. Are we doing this? What is the respect and honor of the Quran? Allah sent this that it becomes part of our life. Has it become? Or is it not? If we look in our own life, if you look in our family's life, our situation, we'll be able to understand that have we really valued the Quran for the purpose it came, or have we taken it for different purposes, for different reasons, for different things? And there is a beautiful poet of a sha'ir, many people will know him, Allama Iqbal. He says, "वो मुअज़्ज़ज़ ते ज़माने में मुसलमान होकर, तुम ज़लील ख्वार हुए तारिक कुरान होकर." They held on to the Sahaba. They were in full of darkness. There was nothing around them, but they held on to this very Quran, like we read in the surah that we're reading today. كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور. They were in darknesses. The light came to them. They held on to it. They grabbed onto it. They came out from it. They ruled over the world. They became those people who were, Allah gave them titles, أولئكم الراشدون, the rightly guided, أولئكم المفلحون, and so on. They were given these titles. But we, look at us, how big of a ummah we are, in millions. We got many countries. We got so much power and so on. But what are we? We don't have any honor. We have been oppressed left and right, and we cannot even stand up. Some ulama give the example of it. Like you see this carpet, it has some sort of resistance to germs and so on. We don't even have that. People step over us, jump on us, and do whatever with us. We cannot say anything. Why? What is the reason? Allah says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرُّقُوا. Hold on to the rope of Allah, which is this Quran, and do not become because so many sects and so on. This is the reason, because we left this rope of Allah with which we were connected to Allah, with which the help of Allah came. We left that, Allah left us. May Allah bring us back to the Quran. Allahu A'lam.